Welcome to the Plant Grow Reap podcast.
Welcome back to Plant Grow Reap. I'm Andrea, and today I'm really lucky to be joined by Allaina Smith, who is the founder and director of Jigsaw People Solutions. Really great to have you on the podcast today, Allaina. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, before we went on air, I'll just let the listeners know, I really love your wallpaper background there. I think the pineapples are super cute. And you're in the Sunshine Coast, so pineapples are actually perfect for the background on what you're doing. So
absolutely. We do love juicy pineapples up here in Sunshine Coast.
I know.
So why not have it on the wall as well?
Exactly. So let's start the podcast by properly introducing you and what you do at Jigsaw People Solutions. So tell us a bit about you and how you got into HR for starters, and a bit about what Jigsaw HR does, because it's not a standard HR or recruitment sort of organisation. So tell us a bit about you and Jigsaw.
Absolutely, I'd love to. So my name's Allaina. I'm the founder of Jigsaw People Solutions and what is now being Jigsaw HR.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm dog mum to Lucky, so I'm really lucky. I've got a rescue hero. He's at home and he's my biggest cheerleader.
Yep, love that.
I'm originally from the UK, and I've lived and really travelled all around Australia, and with that I've been able to connect with all sorts of different people, organisations, and that led me to build my business around the backbone of Australia, which is small businesses that keep this country going. So aside from a business owner, I'm a people and performance coach. So I really love working with leaders who get it and they want to improve their business by their own leadership style. So I guess a little bit about my HR career. I started out in HR ops. So really from the ground up, I was the lady doing the letters for you. And I was that person really learning all of the different elements and how they fit together. And I guess from that point, I've had some fantastic mentors and really great leaders along the way that have helped shape and challenge me to grow. So, and some not so great too, which equally are all learning. And I'm sure we can all relate to those leadership stories. So I've had a number of roles that supported leaders in a HR capacity. And my role really was to be that on-call support for leaders when they're having a people challenge or they're not quite sure what to do. And I'd be the person who'd be like, okay, this is the framework that you've got to stick within. And these are the types of way that you could put yourself, that you could deliver the messages that you need to get to the outcome that you're looking for. So look, I did a very textbook HR role for a number of years, and I was lucky enough that an opportunity came up to lead an operational team. So I thought, why not? Let's go and put the rubber to hit the road and see how my leadership style will be with all of this HR framework. And that was, I would recommend it to any HR professional. Go and do that. Go and lead the elements of the business. Learn about yourself. Learn about the business that you're in, and it really adds a completely different lens to how you help drive outcomes for the business. So it's been a fantastic whirlwind career so far, and I started Jigsaw People Solutions back in 2023. I saw a real need for small to medium-sized businesses to have a real partnership support and someone who has had the opportunity to have the hard conversations and to do the things that I'm asking people to do, because let me tell you, Andrea, I've done them and some of them were great and some of them weren't great at all. And I've learned from all of those experiences to share. That's kind of where we're at right now. That brings us up to present day, is that we help small to medium-sized businesses with all manner of HR.
Yeah. So, in terms of what I guess you've had experience in the UK as well as Australia, is that right? Like you started your career back in the UK. What do you notice is the other different elements? Because we know, we've obviously got a culture which is largely based around, European people and that sort of thing. What are the differences in the business communities between the two and in HR situations? One better than the other, similar sort of situations?
I think there's pros and cons to both in terms of, I think Australia has got a fantastic framework with Fairwork and really keeping it clear around what can and can't be done around employment conditions. The UK doesn't have that, that doesn't have that.
Yeah.
So in terms of how the structure and the setup is quite different, but culturally quite similar. I think from a people perspective, people come to work because they want to do a good job and they really want to go to a place of employment where they enjoy it. We spend a lot of time at work. So, really it's about that culture within the workplace. But I think Australia's probably got a little bit more of a laid back type vibe to it, is what I'd suggest, over maybe the UK, which has been industrialized for hundreds of years. And that does kind of play in on some of the cultural challenges, I think, here as well. But yeah, it's not an apples for apples comparison, I think. But I do really enjoy supporting businesses in understanding the frameworks and their responsibilities here within Australia. And, to build on that, we've supported businesses that have wanted to expand into Australia from the UK. And supporting them in understanding, the regulatory framework and compliance, but also culturally, because that's such an important linchpin when you're coming into a new market.
What do you find working with small business owners? What are their areas of challenge? Like, what are the things that you're seeing when people come to you and say, we need advice from you?
Yeah, look, a lot of the time, people probably leave it that moment too late. Business owners and small to medium-sized business owners, they're wearing so many hats, Andrea. And, you've built your business from the ground up as well, I can see. And to go on that journey, there are many things to consider. So the people management element of it is hard. People are unpredictable. Sometimes there's lots of emotions. There's our own beliefs. There's their beliefs. There's generational. So often business owners it's the thing that keeps them up at night. So it's generally the thing that it might be a people management issue that has happened and they're not sure what they can do. That then leads us to have a conversation to look at, okay, this is the small piece of the puzzle, and this is part of the reason why we are called Jigsaw People Solutions, is that we look at this piece that you think is the problem. But really, if we lift ourselves up and have a look across the board, let's have a look at where you're at with your framework and how you lead and drive for outcomes. So it's not about compliance anymore, Andrea, and really the generations that are coming through in joining the workforce, they're looking for different things from their work than perhaps 10 years ago.
So the small business owner who, has set up a small business, it started with the founder or founders, and they've then grown into having to employ people and things. What is that the sort of person that is coming to you? People who are, newly established and are finding their feet in the employment sort of space, or at the opposite end of the spectrum, people who have been in business for a long time and all of a sudden they have everything's been okay for a while, and then they have a people issue and they say, oh no, we don't know what to do with this.
Yeah. It's a little bit out of column A and a little bit out of column B. So we do get the business owners that are coming to talk to us where they're saying, okay, we're trying to grow. We either can't find people or we can't keep people. So they're coming to us to... A lot of people think they've got a recruitment problem, whereas in fact, when we can switch that around, it's a retention problem usually, and typically it's around leadership and behaviours and how we can teach that business owner to lead people. They've been fantastic at their craft and done a wonderful job at growing their business and connecting with their clients. People leadership is a different hat, and it's a hat that every business owner needs to have, but it's not necessarily something that comes naturally to small business owners. So typically we start with their compliance, and then we look at how are we driving behaviours. I hear the word incentive thrown around quite a lot, and, salary, and that's one tiny lever that is able to be supporting a small business when they're retaining their people. On the opposite end of that, we do get people actually that are in the larger end of, they've gone through that growth cycle. They're at maybe 50 plus people. They're now at that point where it's become complex and they need to pause and have a review. Similarly, people tend to think they've got a recruitment problem or a people problem, and when we start to peel back the layers, it can be that their employee value proposition might not be connected in the way that they think it is. Typically, again, leadership. So we then start and have an audit. Okay, let's look at where you're at right now and where you're trying to get to in the future. And it's not necessarily, I'd say that HR is not paperwork. Really, it's a partner in business to be able to support you to your next phase. Might be this small people thing right now, and definitely we can help you with that, and we can help prevent those things happening in the future. But typically, it's a partnership to be invested in helping that business with their people.
So when someone comes and engages with you, they'll come to you with a problem, no doubt, because that's what happens. People are like, oh no, we've got a problem, and they'll do a Google search and they'll find Jigsaw and they'll say, okay, these people look like they can help me with what I need. What's your first? How do you engage with them to start with? And, do you have programs that they go through, or, what's the process for this? Because I know a lot of small business owners probably think to themselves, oh, this is all just too hard. It's going to add so much complexity to my business. I really don't want to have to go through all of that, or I just want somebody who can write all my procedures and policies for me and then just give them to me and I do that. How do you guys work?
Yeah, so you're right. Often people will come to us in that they think that they've got a problem with performance, or they think that they're not getting the best out of their people, and quite often it's a reflective process. So really, we're interested in partnering with businesses, and that's where the difference comes in. Because I have led large teams, it's really important that my team understand the business that we're speaking with. So it might be this small 10-cent thing, but really the lead up to that point has been much bigger. So we spend quite a bit of time, Andrea, with getting to know the business up front. We'll have a call where we understand more about their structure, where they're at, what their business goals are. The most important part is connecting your people goals to your business goals, because when we start, and I mentioned around incentives and things like that, that's fantastic, but we've got to think about it in terms of driving behavior, and that behavior is determined, what you need is determined by the business goal too. So we have a bit of a HR audit, if you like, and from that point, we do offer a number of different, we've created a space for each tier of their journey. We might have that small business that does want their policies and procedures that come through, and that's fair. Everyone does need that. They also need to implement them, because I can't tell you the amount of businesses that I've spoken to that I've got a policy for that. Fantastic. Do your team know about it? Have you spoken about it?
It's in a folder on the in the lunchroom, isn't it?
Yes, it's there. Fabulous. Have we checked that they know about it? So from a really based here, we have an advisory hub that we invite businesses to come at a very low cost. It then gives them an opportunity to really lay and set their foundations, with an opportunity to ask us questions in writing. If they do have that people issue, we can get back to them quite quickly. So that's one element, and that's really for the smaller businesses. Beyond that, and the partnership piece really comes in then. So if it's a business that is really looking to grow and they want to invest in their leaders, and we can connect the business goals to the people goals, we'll partner with them on a longer term basis, where we have a people partner that is embedded as part of the leadership team, and we will help support and challenge those decisions that potentially, when we're thinking about one avenue that might drive behavior A that is less desirable, we've got the experience to say, actually, we've got quite a bit of experience in this space. We recommend that we've seen this element used before. For example, total rewards programs. Yes, sure, you might get a gym membership and an extra $5 off your coffee and stuff, but unless that connects to the full picture of what it is that your team want from a work environment, how your leaders show up and embed your values, how your business trajectory is connecting to that. They all have to connect. Again, a part of that jigsaw piece puzzle. That's really what it is. It's connecting all of those pieces together for your business and not seeing HR as like this add-on headache. We don't want you staying up at night. You should have a sound sleep knowing that you've got fantastic foundations in there and a partner that works with you to figure this out. And quite often, Andrea, people can't afford the large overhead of a HR person within their business. And when they do, typically it can be someone who's quite administrative, maybe doesn't have the strategic mindset to be able to support them to grow at that point. There does come a point where you do need that in-house support, and we often will help businesses in finding the right person for those roles. But, you know, if you're between 10 and 50, really, from an employee perspective, we can set you up with that foundation and remove the unknown element of people management, and particularly in the Fairwork framework.
That was going to be my next question. Like, at what point do you think that people need to have an internal HR support person as opposed to, you know, being able to outsource to an organisation like yours? Is it like the 10 to 50, or does it depend on the industry? Are there industries that are more that need more hands-on daily support?
It really does depend on the industry, and it does depend on that business where they're wanting to get to. So, you know, if it's a business that's well established, they are looking to retain and keep at a very steady pace, then it's unlikely, if they're at 50 people, they've been able to build and hold a culture, it's unlikely that they're going to need one. However, business with 50 people that's looking to get to 80 or 100 in the next 12 to 18 months, that's a different story. As you add more people to your business, the culture can dilute, and that's when the real problems can start, because most people issues aren't capability, they're not capability problems, they're often leadership clarity and structure. And when you get to 50, you've likely promoted some of your really high achievers that have done fantastically at their role, but you're now adding a hat that says you're now a people leader. And quite often that's a very scary thing to do. People don't like having difficult conversations, but as a part of leadership, it's those muscles that we need to train and support them. So, I'd suggest it's different for each business, and it really is about making an assessment as to where you are, where you want to get to, because having a strategic people person really adds value.
In terms of, you know, a small business, they may be in the first few years of their operation, so they're still, you know, reasonably inexperienced with things and not really sure about, you know, what stages they need to get to. You know, they might have a business plan, but it may or may not include what their HR strategy is, because we, you know, having seen lots of business plans in my life, HR strategy does not feature highly on the priority list. What are the key things that people need to get organised straight away to make sure that, you know, that foundation for the first few years is safe without them, you know, then having lots and lots of headaches? If you were to just give them, you know, 3 or 4 absolute must-have things that they need to do before they start employing, what would those things look like?
I think, that's a really great question. I think from connecting how your business performs with your people strategy is so important. The foundational stuff from a compliance perspective is absolutely critical. The framework in Australia does change, and it does change a lot. There's lots of reforms. I was talking earlier about psychosocial hazards and being aware of those types of things. From a foundational point of view, if someone was starting a business tomorrow and looking to employ their people, I'd be suggesting to get solid contracts written that take into consideration your business context, and thinking about things around if you've got a business that maybe there is a lot of competitors out there, whether or not you would allow that person to then go and work for a competitor in the future, and clauses like that. Also, your behavioral standards really are where your policies sit. So being really clear around the expectations of your people, and that's linked to your business goals. So getting your policies and procedures in place. Yes, sure, let's pop them on the lunch table, but having a regular conversation about them is really important. So foundationally, it's really upskill yourself in understanding what Fairwork is, upskill yourself on your industry, your foundations of your compliance, your contracts, and those types of things, and your foundations of your behavioral expectations through your policies. Those are the main things that I'd recommend a small business starting out to hire people.
And in terms of, what are the most important sort of policies that small businesses should be thinking about in the first instance? Like, you can go whole hog and do, all 50 policies at once or all 100 policies at once, but, thinking about smaller businesses where the capacity for, strategy around HR, what are the, few that you think you must absolutely have these things in place before you start employing people?
Yeah, you're right. You can have 50 manuals, policies. No one's going to read them. Really, I'd suggest to keep it simple as possible. I'd start with a code of conduct that outlines what your expectations are, and if there is ever a problem, how it will be handled. So that helps manage behaviour expectations. If there's a grievance between two people that work for you, perhaps there's been a bit of an argument, that policy then allows you to have a framework to say, well, this is how we'll handle it. A leave policy, so detailing, when it isn't acceptable and the processes around that. And really interesting one, Andrea, around policy space. What I'm seeing a lot is a policy on AI. And really requiring a policy on clarity on yes or no, it's accepted within the business, yes or no, what is the types of programs that we will use, and yes and no on what types of information you can use to enable you to do your job in that space. So that the AI one is really a business risk element, and that's being clear with your people about. People are using it, right? Everyone's using ChatGPT, all of the other different tools that are emerging. It's about being clear around what you can and can't do in that space. So, look, code of conduct is a baseline so that you can handle issues as they come along. A leave policy, so that's really just a compliance thing. It's quite black and white, and a policy around AI.
That's really good advice. I think it's certainly, as we see lots of small businesses who, we may be helping them with their payroll and the compliance elements around those things. And when we say to them, they'll ask us a question around like, oh, what are the leave entitlements for this particular role? And we'll say to them, well, what does your leave policy say for starters? And what does the person's employment contract say? And the first answers to those things are, oh, we don't really have an employment contract. We've just employed them under the award. Doesn't that cover it? And then, oh, we've never really had a leave policy in the past because we've only got this one person, and, the directors of the business or the owners of the business, they just take leave whenever they feel like it. So thinking about the fact that a lot of businesses are like that, and they need policies, but they already have people in place that they haven't necessarily got a robust contract for and things. How do you introduce those things retrospectively to people who may have been employed by the business for, a few years, and they become sort of like, oh yeah, this is all good and it's all very happy and everything is working well. How do you all of a sudden say to your team, whether it be big or small, now we've got contracts and we expect you to sign them, and here's some policies and you've got to abide by those too. What do those conversations look like?
And quite often we do find ourselves supporting businesses that are in that precise situation whereby, oh gosh, I didn't really know I needed to give someone an employment contract and the foundational things. the way I position it and the way I support a business to position it is it's often part of their evolution as a small business into a growing up their business. So often we can explain to employees, look, this is, we've been in operation. We're now focused on ensuring that we're a business that is foundationally set up right. And as part of that, it enables us to be clear with you and you to be clear with us, but we're introducing some more formal procedures. And, often you can seek feedback from the team and in that consultation type environment where you can have a conversation around what do you think? Because your people often are very invested in small businesses as well and very invested in success too. They often will stick around for a really long time. So if you're at the policy stage, you can get feedback. They might have some fantastic ideas for you to incorporate in that as well. It also gives them a sense of ownership. When it comes to the employment contracts, it's a similar conversation that suggests, it formalizes our employment relationship and really enables to set us up with clarity around expectations from not only the employee, but also us as an employer, that what we're going to give to you formalizes it. So that's how I'd recommend to approach those transition times. And we do often support businesses in that space that they've set up a business, all of a sudden they've got 2, 3, maybe 4, 5 employees, and they have that light bulb moment, whether it's someone like yourself who's doing the payroll and supporting the financial side of things, or another person that helps them see, you really need to do this. It saves you a lot of potential issues down the track. If someone's not got an employment contract and, hopefully this doesn't happen, but something happens and the Fair Work are then involved. If there's no employment contract there's no way for you to demonstrate what the expectations are of the employee and the terms and conditions of that employment. The NES doesn't cover that. The awards don't cover that. That's an individual agreement between the employee and the employer.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there around, HR and what it means for a business to have HR support or a HR person. And there's often that, employee-based conversation around, HR just work for the business and they don't really care about us. They're just, ticking boxes and making sure that the business is compliant. If, you probably come across those sorts of conversations because you're, working with businesses and probably talking to employees and, getting their understanding. How do you frame it to when you go in to an organisation and you're now all of a sudden the HR person and maybe seen as the bad guy, or like, oh, what do we need a HR person for? What is there something wrong? Like, are we doing something wrong? How do those conversations go? Because I imagine there's some like awkward questions that get asked, and a lot of like, oh, what are they here for? They're just trying to bring down the axe on us or something.
It's unfortunate that the way that the HR as a profession has grown up, if you like, through a very HR was born out of a need for compliance in this country. It's really evolved from that part of being the people that turn up to fire people to really where we sit, and that's a strategic add-on. So when I think about the conversations that we have with employees that are generally, they're concerned about why is HR all of a sudden here? And it used to be that they are the enforcers, the police, the people police, and that's not really what it's about. So the groundwork there is done daily, and people are going to have their own assumptions based on previous experiences and however they've had HR, and this often a joke about HR's here, get a box. But what we do is we explain to the team, and the employees will generally have a bit of an intro that we are there to support both the business and the team to structure and communicate better moving forward, and support a better outcome for the business, and really a better outcome for the business is a better outcome for everybody. So there have been some awkward conversations, and some people don't believe you, and that's fine. It takes them a while, but really as a partner to that business, they see us when it's the good things as well as the not so great things. So, as long as we're showing up consistently and do the groundwork with those team members to support both them and the business, that's really all it is. It's about showing up and being really clear that we are there to support outcomes for everybody, and that's what it's about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to the conversation about, the leadership journey of some people that move through organisations, and as you said, as the business grows and people may have started in one particular position and they've been around for a while and they've moved up the ladder, so to speak, and they become leaders themselves. What work do you do around that for small businesses? Because, again, those sorts of conversations typically are, reasonably expensive, and most small businesses are like, oh, no, we just don't have the budget for that sort of work. Like we can't afford to mentor these 5 people. The managing director or the founder will be like, oh, no, I'll just do the mentoring myself as well as running the business and doing all the other things. So, there's a fine line between we need to do this work so that our leaders have good outcomes and opportunities, but also we can't really afford that in our budget. What are some of the strategies that you have around that? Because we need to find budget for those things, because building the next layer of leadership is important, particularly for the people at the top who need to have some sort of succession planning, and this is, their investment in succession planning. When you have those conversations, is there an all or nothing approach, or is it, can you step those conversations? What does that look like for a small business?
Yeah, it's interesting in that the leadership element of any small business that is looking to grow is so absolutely critical. And sometimes that is the business owner, and that's a difficult conversation to have, to say, this is really, it's got to hold up a mirror, and that's uncomfortable for some people. So, some people do decide not to proceed down that road, and that's absolutely their decision. But those that do, that are ready to have the conversation honestly with themselves about themselves for their growth, have such a better impact in their business over the medium to longer term. So whilst the budget mightn't be there and it's seen to be a nice to have, that budget then is probably being spent on your recruitment or you're losing people. So would you rather spend that money there or build a sustainable business? So budget's one thing. It's where do you allocate it? So like I mentioned earlier, we find your people, keep your people, and leading your people are really the pillars that we work to. The find your people, there's often budget for recruitment, but really, if we flip that budget around into keeping and leading your people, that's where you won't have that churn. You don't lose your the knowledge that people have gathered in your business for a long time. Your culture doesn't dilute. So it's a two-pronged. It's, are you ready to grow yourself? Because that's hard. You spend a lot of time in your business, and your middle leaders are coming through. Are you ready for that? Because that's something you need to have an honest conversation with yourself about. But also, when it comes to budget, it's where would you prefer to spend your money? Because there's return on investment both ways. But my view and my experience tells me that if you do invest that budget over in the leadership side of things and they stay for longer, they help grow your business, but also then your churn becomes less, your turnover is less. It's a mindset switch. It's
always interesting, and as you said, when you're a small business owner or a founder, it is hard to actually understand that it is a different mindset. You running your business and helping lead your team to run your business are two really different things, and important to spend the time and investment on those things for the future of the business, particularly if it is looking to grow in the future. Just before
absolutely.
we finish up today, Allaina, I'm going to ask you to give us some of your predictions for 2026. There's always movement in the Fair Work and employment space in Australia. It moves and changes so fast, and I understand how small business owners just do not keep up with what's going on and the changes that are coming and things like that. The biggest HR challenges that you see for small businesses in Australia in 2026, what are those things that are really flagging in your mind where you're thinking to yourself, businesses need to be thinking about these things and being forward thinking about it as well?
I think it's a really good question. So, crystal ball, there's a lot of discussion around contractors versus employees. So that's an area that I think we will start to see more traction on, in terms of now that the ATO, and this is your area of expertise, are starting to be more onto it, I guess, in terms of, so if you have a contractor but they're doing regular work for you on a regular schedule, they're driving your vehicles, they are in essence an employee. So I think that for small businesses that's important. I think, from a psychosocial perspective, that's also gaining traction. So that was introduced around 2 years ago, the psychosocial hazards and how to identify those things within your business. So the leadership element of how you create a culture where people can perform without burning out. I think we're going to see some really interesting things play out in the Commission around psychosocial and the respect for businesses. And really, if I was to advise a small business about that, I think it is around ensuring that you've got those policies, those leave policies, code of conduct all in place, and that your leadership behavior creates an environment where people do perform without burning out, and that if you do have rosters that are long, having a look at that and making sure you've got control measures to support that. So, look, I think practical takeaways for small businesses in the Fair Work side of things: get to know which award applies to your business. Check the classifications and the hours regularly. So the update comes through, I think it's in around June time. Make sure that you're across that. It's an annual review. Keep your records clean, Karen. Make sure that you're dealing with issues early and fairly, and, get advice before problems escalate. If it's keeping you up at night, get some advice. If it's something that is becoming a big thought process for you, don't sit with it. It probably is an issue. Let us help you. There's many HR businesses across Australia that do support small businesses, and you don't have to sit there with this yourself.
I think that's a really important point too, Allaina, that oftentimes people think that it's more expensive or more it's going to take more energy than it does to seek out support. But there are lots of businesses like yours who do specialise in this area and are cognizant of the fact that small businesses have smaller budgets. They don't necessarily have the big HR budgets of the big corporations. And so there is support out there and they should seek it. We will, of course, share all of your details as part of this podcast, so any of our listeners can reach out to Allaina and her team about any of the issues that we've talked about today and get advice. And even on your website, there's lots of really good information. And I think there's a lot of information sharing out there, and as part of our community, that's really important to us, is that we share as much information as we can to make people's lives easier and more fulfilling about those sorts of things. I said one last thing when I asked you these questions, but as you talked about like awards and being aware of what the award is that is relevant to your business, this is something that I came across the other day in a Facebook group that I'm part of, which is a business employers in the accounting industry. And, we're pretty aware of what we do, and we're pretty across all of that sort of stuff. Accountants typically are, because we're doing payroll, and awards are something that we're familiar with. But one accountant was saying that they had a client of theirs who was in an industry that is quite well known for not paying its people the appropriate awards. So the industry was a flag to begin with. They had put an ad on Seek, and that ad on Seek had indicated a salary range that was not within the award salary range. And they received a fine from, they were contacted by Fairwork and received a fine for advertising a job that was, that should have been within an award range. And, talking about the ATO and contractors versus employees, et cetera, we really need to be aware in this day and age of information sharing and the fact that it is very simple and easy for our authorities to have access to the information like that. So to be really aware of those things, we kind of think we can be a bit lax with, it's kind of within the range, or, I'm saying a salary range for this job, but, I'll be flexible and that's up, to me and the potential employee to negotiate. But you have to be super careful with these things because wage theft and following awards is one of those things where the ATO knows about it, and so do the other authorities. The information sharing is a big deal these days, and we're coming across it a lot as accountants. So no doubt you come across it a lot as well when you're doing the HR spot fires, putting out that you probably do for employers. And, for us, again, these sorts of information sharing and podcasts and being able to give people access to your details so that they can get proper advice, it's so important because it can really impact a small business in a big way if they just make a small mistake and they think it is a small mistake and they don't do it intentionally, but because of the nature of certain industries and big media reports about certain things, you can put yourself in a spotlight that you don't want to be in. So taking advice.
And just to point back on that, there was a large case of that last year where one of the larger businesses within Australia that have a very big Australian HR team, and they didn't get it right, and that was huge. So we do find the award is absolutely it's a very minimum compliance that you must get right. If it's not within the salary range, you need to reach out to someone. If you want to do an annualized salary or you want to get a little bit more creative with the pay and the conditions, there are things in each award. Firstly, it's about, do you know what the primary duties are of the role and what award it's covered by? Secondly, we'd look at the award and go, okay, what are the elements that can be negotiated and what are the elements that are fixed? You would then look at the business needs. You do what's called a better off overall test, which I'm sure you have heard of the boot test, and hopefully many people that are listening have already done that for their role, so that they are making sure that they are paying within that salary range. But you're absolutely right. And the Fair Work Ombudsman, the State Revenue Office, absolutely, the ATO, there's a lot of regulatory bodies out there that are interested when they do find non-compliances.
So it's definitely something that, we're not going to see these things go away. They're going to get, more strict. The information sharing is going to become easier for the different authorities to talk between one another. It's all something that if you are proactive about these things and you're across them as part of your, general workday, you can avoid a lot of the issues and not have to have the spot fires put out all the time. You can actually be proactive in your HR, and I think that's why having people on your side like what you do at Jigsaw is really important, and it's not necessarily a super huge expense. Yes, it is an investment and you do have to budget for it, but in the long term, it does give a lot of peace of mind, allows you, to go home and sleep well at night knowing that you're doing the right thing by your team and the people around you. I want to thank you for your time today, Allaina. You've shared so much good information for our small businesses. it's there's so many people out there who are sort of sitting there thinking, I do need to take the next step, but I just am not sure what to do. And having even an hour with you, just sort of sitting down and getting an understanding about what you do and how you support small business, it's so important. And I really thank you for your time. Thanks for spending and giving us your expertise today. And we, as I said, we'll share all of your details so that the people can understand who you are and what you do. And you work across Australia, so you can help any business. You might be sitting in the beautiful Sunshine Coast right now, but businesses all across Australia can reach out to you for assistance and advice. So thanks again for joining us. And for the listeners at home, you can subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts, and please look out for the details on Allaina and subscribe to her newsletter and all of that so that she can get across more small business in Australia too. Thanks, Allaina.
Thanks, Andrea. It's been wonderful.
Great.